Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index Office Hours. Today is the 2nd of September, and this is Index Office Hours 223. Feel free to check out the agenda, which is posted in the chat right there. For anyone who is new to Index Office Hours, this is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexes. As always, this is a conversation and we do love participation. In particular, for today's conversation, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you'd like to get involved in today's conversation, feel free to via voice or text. And if you're having any challenges with your microphone, do let me know and I'll get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this session is going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you are concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get the show on the road. So in an unorthodox fashion, I'm going to hand it straight to Juan for the Protocol Watch segment.
Thanks, Sable. Okay, for Protocol Watch, we don't have a ton to cover. Getting started with forum governance, we have an update for the GDR 44. This is a request for information about disputes 44. It's the same thing as the previous, I think, 6 or 7 disputes, which is an indexer copy-pasting another indexer's POI. This is a clear breach of the charter, so the dispute was accepted. And as far as I recall, the transaction has already gone through, so all of the disputes that were open are now resolved. For forum research, we don't have any new updates. For the contracts repository, we do have a small PRs, mainly baseline upgrades in preparation for the service quality contract PR, and a small chore to replace a broken batch. No new updates for the network subgraphs, so that's pretty much it. Carlos mentioned he was going to be right back. Okay, there he is. I don't know if he can hear us. Should you go with Repo Watch able? Should we check with Carlos?
Yeah, let's check in with Carlos quickly, and if not, then I'm happy to take over. So, Carlos, how are the audio issues? Feel free to type in the chat. Audio issues.
I would assume the lack of response is probably a telltale sign that it's an audio issue.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I will go into the Repo Watch section and try and do my best to cover it well. I think they're restarting. What exactly? Discord. Oh, okay. Carlos is starting Discord. Okay. Well, I'm gonna try and go through Repo Watch. If you can hear me, Carlos, or if you'd like to take over, feel free to. Otherwise, I will give this a shot. So, starting off with the first aspect of Repo Watch, we're going to talk about execution layer clients. And as for Aragon, there are no new releases as well as SF Geth. But for Geth, there is a new release, and that new release is V 1.16.3. Oh, I have audio now. Okay, cool. Carlos, feel free to take over.
Yes, except I don't know where we were, but I will jump to the most important one. So there's a new minor release for 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗀 v2. There's going to be another hard fork, so it's promising. You guys need to update before 16 September, which is the date that the hard fork is scheduled for. So that's the most critically important one. New release out of 𝗨𝗀𝗃 v2. There's a new patch release for Arbitrum Nitro. We're now on 3.7.1. So Nitro is important. I think Matthew will agree. So updated one. Please mind, if you haven't paid attention to the release note of the 3.7.0 a couple of weeks back, you should do so because there are some important notes there in terms of upgrading to 3.7. There's the new patch version for Avalanche. We're now at 1.13.5. Nothing too big standing out, always good to update. A new Nethermind, we're now on 1.33.0. And there's a new patch version for Git. We're now at 1.16.3. Some more performance enhancements. So that one is going well. And then on the consensus client, we have Teku and Nimbus. They both have new versions out, nothing huge standing out, but usual improvement. Sharon? And I think that's it for blockchains. Now on the graph stack, there's nothing new out this week. And on Launchpad, same, there will be in next 1 or 2 days kernel releases to keep up with these new versions this past week. But that's about it. Sorry for the audio issues, guys. I hope you're all having a great week. And that's it for the Repo Watch this week.
Gotcha. And now we'll hand over to Kate.
Hi everyone. Similar to last week, we're sending the GGP to have the council vote on rewards for 𝗨𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀. And so it's going out this week, so I will post in the Indexer channel some reminders for folks to get spinning up that infra if they don't have it yet. Hopefully all that will go through. So as I get a clear idea of timing of when that will be, what those results are and when that will be out, I will make sure to let everybody know. Thanks.
Alrighty, I think that's everything in the way of updates. So thank you everyone for your respective sections. And now I look forward to handing the mic to Ford, who will be joining us and telling us about a new data service that is being launched. So without further ado, Ford, feel free to take the mic.
Hey all, thanks Abel. So thanks for the intro. Yeah, I don't know if I know everyone here. I used to be pretty active here. My name is Ford. I work as I'm now the interim director of engineering at 𝗨𝘀𝗧𝗪𝗧. And just to start with some background here, recently there's been some feedback from indexers that's come through the Indexer Experience Working Group, which shout out to Ori for driving that lately. They've been really active there. So some of the feedback from indexers is that we've been a little bit quiet on the core dev front, and they'd like to be more involved. You guys would all like to be more involved with our developments. And so I wanted to come here and give you guys a little bit of early alpha on some of the stuff we're building right now. So I wanted to say I hear your feedback and want to work with you guys closely, especially as we build a new data service. So 𝗨𝘀𝗧𝗪𝗧 has been in development for new data service for the last year or so. And I can't tell you guys the details of what this is going to look like. We're not releasing it quite yet, but I just wanted to give you guys early heads up that we're building this new data service. And also in relation to the feedback, that's one of the reasons why development on GraphNode has been a little bit slow lately. And as you noticed, I've not been quite as active in this community and working with you guys. I'm excited to get back in and work with you guys a little bit more closely as we develop this new data service. So I have a few high-level details. We're not going to share all the details of the technology, but I wanted to give you guys a little heads up. This new data service is going to be storage, extraction, and query related. It's going to be something that we hope can be a base for many other data services and help to realize some of the goals of the network that we've had over the years. I'm really excited to work with you guys a lot more closely. I have in the past. I really think the feedback loops that you guys help us create are useful, and you're just like great partners in bringing the business to the world and bring these great data services. So to that end, we've started a beta testing indexer group with this new data service, help us strategize on the network deployment, how this might work for the operations side for indexers, and just start to iterate closer to a launch. Something that's really important to me and everyone at 𝗨𝘀𝗧𝗪𝗧 is that any new data service we create is going to work really well with the network. It's going to work well in a single node environment that you indexers run. And it's going to work with the economics of the network. So we really want to work with you guys to help make sure that that's a reality, and we learn from everything we've done with the subgraph data service. let's see, what else can I tell you guys? The new data service is going to be a little more focused on efficiency for the indexer backend. So I learned a lot from the subgraph data service as far as the amount of data you guys have to store, the amount of blockchain nodes you have to run. We're really focusing on cheaper storage options and more efficiency on the backend storage side of things. We're hoping this data service is something that can be linked to many other data services, and like I said, be kind of backbone from multiple products. So we're kind of learning a lot from the subgraph data service and not trying to build one single monolithic thing or multiple monolithic services, but a linking of multiple services. And we're still targeting app developers for this data service for now, but I think we'll also be making a foray into more data analysis and data science use cases as we launch this new data service and see what users latch onto that. I think maybe that's a good time to pause for any questions, and I'll think about what other details I can share with you guys while we do a bit of Q&A. Hopefully I can answer your questions. I'm going to try to ride the line between giving you guys details, but not releasing all the alpha for this. Oh, and also an important thing to mention is that I mentioned we have this beta tester group. So if any indexers are really excited to get involved and be a part of this, please reach out. We can find ways for you to get involved, whether it's this early beta tester group or later feedback and operations when we move towards a release, maybe on testnet before mainnet. There's lots of opportunity. And Orion, please jump in if I missed anything or you think any context can be added. Polly B said, any rough time frame? We're hoping we can at least release details to you guys by end of year this year. And then from there, we can have more detailed time frames on what work release will happen.
Can you maybe share a bit more about the indexer efficiencies that you're working on? Seems like people are pretty excited to hear more about that, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll kind of use some context of existing systems for that. You know, with GraphNode and subgraphs and substreams and Firehose and all the data services we have now, there's a lot of places where the blockchain data gets stored. So you have blockchain data stored on your blockchain node that's powering RPC. You might have the blockchain data on the Firehose flat files. You might also have it in the node cache. And then you'll have reflections of that in the subgraph data store. So one way to improve efficiency is to just store that data once and give access to different places. So that's something we're exploring. There's also, of course, the hardware side of things. So being able to use cheaper hardware, use object storage where possible, rather than using things like NVMe, is another way we're aiming to get better efficiency. And we can give you more details later. I think that's a good start.
Awesome. Any follow-up questions based on what was shared there?
And again, I had mentioned the Indexer Experience Working Group. That's a great place to get involved with all the efforts going on with network changes, new data services, and finding opportunity to build and help on things that are being built. No other questions?
Surely there are some more questions people have. An exciting update. Or maybe before you can continue sharing some more information. Maybe that will spark up some additional questions.
Yeah, I think I've touched on the main points I wanted to share here. Again, I'm trying to ride the line here between sharing with you guys and getting you involved and not giving all the alpha on the new product as we develop it. Yeah, Vince, so we will likely have a test net, of course, to make sure everything's working well before we go to mainnet. Indexers will, of course, have an opportunity to be involved in that test net. I can't say whether it'll be incentivized yet. There's some discussion to be had on that still. Open to feedback from you guys, though, as we develop that. And generally, always open to feedback. I know we did a survey recently where we got a lot of good feedback. I think we're still going through some of that, but we're learning a lot from that. But if you have any feedback on how the subgraph service worked or want to get involved, my DMs are always open.
Awesome. I see Slim is typing. Feel free to hop on the mic if it's easier, Slim. Any additional questions forward on the new data service? Keen to get people's questions answered. And oh, okay. Let's see. There's a big message here. Many indexes on this call are already in the beta testing group, which I assume is the main reason for the lack of questions. This is exciting news. To join the Indexer Working Experience group, feel free to express your interest in this form or just message Slim. Cool.
Yeah, we have revamped the Index Experience Working Group. It's an old call that we've had since 2021, I believe. And yeah, now we are working a lot closer with key indexes on the network that wants to get involved and invite people both from the indexing community and from core dev teams as well. So shout out to like Payne, Victor, Derek, Vince, and others that are frequenting these calls. Marc-André, Vincent, I think you've all been on some of these calls. Jim, of course. So yeah. Feel free to let me know if you want to join those calls. It's bi-weekly on Thursdays, and we'll do some workshopping on current and upcoming projects and initiatives that we're working on in the graph ecosystem. And we're trying to get a lot more involved, get indexes a lot more involved than over the last couple of years. So we've heard your feedback loud and clear. I'll also be sharing the feedback that we've gotten from indexers so far. I had an indexer feedback form that I shared, I think it's probably a couple of months ago now, and we've collected some very well detailed and candid feedback from indexers, and we'll share some anonymous data from that on where we can improve, both from the Graph Foundation side as well as core devs, as well as a protocol as a whole as well. Like some questions here about foundation transparency and about the financial viability of running an indexer, as well as some technical questions as well. So it's going to be we are compiling that into something that is more shareable on indexer office hours So I think it's a good starting point to. Well, we have a lot of places we can improve from initially working on that report. So thank you. Me too inside from P2P joining the Index Experience Working Group. So excited to have another one join the team.
Amazing. When can we expect to have that conversation about the feedback form and the things that were discussed that were mentioned there?
Should be like that one. I can try to get done by either next or the Tuesday after. I think those that wanted to fill that form have already done it, starting to slow down how many is filling the form. So yeah, I'm happy to compile it and share.
Awesome. And maybe this is a conversation for you and I, but I'm interested to know how we can better align the Index of Working Experience group and the IOH core, and like how we can make sure like there is good coverage of topics across these two venues, because we want to make sure that like you know, these conversations, like, you know, this sounds like there's similar kinds of people coming to IOH and the Index of Working Experience group, and so want to make sure that yeah, there's good a good use of both venues. So I will have a chat with you about that though another time.
Yeah, just to give a brief setting on that, like it's mostly that the Index Experience Working Group will be more workshopping specifically on numbers, on different variations of, say there's an upcoming proposal, that working group would be workshopping, for example, on the details and on specific like prioritization or implementation details, or doing a lot more like ideation and roundtable discussions where there's not like presentations in the same way. Whereas IOH, I think it's better suited to have a format that is a little bit more in between. I know normally it's a conversation and not a I don't know, and we love participation, but it's also, we also have it's harder to facilitate a roundtable discussion when you don't really know who's joining in IOH and how much context they have. In an Index Experience Working Group, we appreciate people that are more consistent and that we can work with more like detailed proposals over time. And one of the segments that we have started to go through as a biweekly segment in that working group is to go through outstanding issues and bug reports and feature requests on the GraphNode project board, and see what indexes think about these, and if there's any like, so we can give input to the GraphNode team as well on what is critical to indexes, and what is something that may not be worth spending a lot of engineering effort on. So that is something that Payne have been leading, and yeah, we are also working on the newly proposed GRP 0079, that is the eligibility criteria. I think most people here, most spaces here I've seen participate in these discussions. We've had 2 sessions on IOH that are more, you know, going through what we are currently thinking, and the working group would be more going in depth and attacking the proposal from different angles and make sure we have a solid proposal when it's live, and which it is now. I feel like it's an excellent proposal. I do recommend that people read through it if they haven't already, and if they have, we have some time at the end of this call, we could also talk a little bit more about it. But That's I'm posting it again here in chat. That's the 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗪 that would disable indexing rewards for people that are not meeting a minimum service requirement, and specifically serving queries, which none of the indexes here on this call, I believe, is falling into this criteria. So but there's still half of the registered indexes on the graph is serving very few subgraphs, and 30% is actually serving 0 queries in a 30-day interval, which is it is more so than, and well, it's first off, it's an economic waste, and second of all, it doesn't feel good for all of us indexers that are on this call right now to see protocol issuance going to indexers that are not wanting to bring value to the graph network, and that is simply extracting value, selling the GRT, and not providing actual value. So Matthew's in full support, I see, and the proposal is already on GitHub, and we can set aside some time if there's any questions about it towards the end. I think there's one more thing that you wanted to go through, Abel, that we have on the agenda before that.
Let's see. I mean, before moving on, I want to make sure that Ford gets a chance to respond to the questions that he has in the
Sorry.
chat.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Okay. And it seems like his audio is working again. So maybe you want to cover the couple of questions. So we got a question from asking, what did I miss? So maybe a quick recap, and then there's a question about the new service from Paulie B, and then also from Vince as well.
I think Sebastian knows enough about this. I don't need to fill him in. So Paulie B had a question about incentivization. So when I said we're not sure if it would be incentivized, I was referring to the testnet deployment, right? So that's ahead of a mainnet production deployment. In the past, we've had, like the mission control program where we had an incentivized testnet. I'm not sure if we'll have an incentivized testnet this time. It's possible, but I can't give you a definitive answer on that. But the mainnet deployment will maybe incentivize for indexers or operators. So there will be a way to get paid to do work to back this data service, which I think is a good segue into Vince's question. Will the new data service pull from indexing emissions or really on customers paying? That is something that there's a proposal being written for right now, and I think that's going to be probably one of the main points of discussion with this beta indexer group that's going to help us develop the service. So there's going to be some collaboration and review there, but I imagine there will be what we'll end up with is a hybrid of emissions and direct payments. I see Sebastian is answering a few questions in the chat too. I think he's reflecting similar responses. Yeah, we don't have details yet on the incentive program. Let's see, did I miss any other questions, I guess? Nope. If we don't have any other questions, I would wrap it by saying that I'm really excited about this new data service. We're all very excited at Edgenode. I think this is going to be a game changer. So even though I can't really share with you why or too many details, I did want to share that impression that we have, and I'm excited to share more with you guys when we can.
Gotcha. I was looking at the chat, so forgive me if you've already covered this, but there was a question here about emissions. I think you did cover that, right?
Yeah, we touched on that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ford. Really do appreciate that, and looking forward to facilitating a more in-depth conversation as that develops. You got a question in here from Sergey. This is directed to you, Sim Chan, so feel free to take that one.
yeah, as the proposal is currently, there's no limitations for which subgraphs you're serving queries on. It's if it has signal and it's a valid query and it is within very, very reasonable like latency and like block behind or like data freshness criteria, then it will count as a valid query. So inside that graph proposal or graph improvement proposal, this doesn't give the initial details, but it is a link to an eligibility criteria.md file. I'm replying to your message now, so people in chat can see that. That's the eligibility criteria. There are the proposed initial criteria. We've also discussed having the same criteria, but for fewer subgraphs as the initial criteria, which would still capture 80% of the stake currently going to indexes that are not doing valuable work. Is going to indexes that are doing absolutely zero queries at all. So even if we were to reduce the criteria even further, we would still capture 80% of that. So that is also a possibility. But this is the currently proposed initial criteria, and yeah, a failed subgraph would still count any subgraph with those 500 GRT, the 500 GRT signal.
You want to share some more about the JIP to spark up some more conversation on it? Maybe get people to ask questions. Oh, seems like there's a follow-up here. And this criteria is measured for each subgraph on the indexer or for the entire indexer?
So we are like it's 10 subgraphs that need to have a valid query, and that valid query needs to meet some minimum service or quality of service requirements, like not being higher latency than 5 seconds, so 5,000 milliseconds, not be 50,000 blocks behind chain head. So for each indexer, they need to serve 10 different, one query on each of 10 different subgraphs. So I would recommend all indexers that are unsure if they are getting queries on all their subgraphs to serve more than 10 different subgraphs and not try to keep it at the minimum amount. This is simply a wake up and making sure that people that are not doing any work at all are not extracting rewards that would otherwise go to value adding indexes. So if that makes sense. Yeah, I think there's one on the MIPS side. Mark Andreas asking to be about the mistakes of MIPS. I think I can also jump in there and say that from the foundation side, we do realize that MIPS there was a lot of things that could have been improved significantly on the MIPS side. I was not involved back then until like the latter half when we were working on getting things wrapped up. But it definitely not something that it's definitely something we will and need to take learnings from and improve if there's any similar initiative with other data services or anything. So yeah.
And we discussed this exact point already. So we are well aware it's on our radar. Thanks for bringing it up, though. Like this is definitely being deeply like dissected and reviewed, and we're definitely not interested in making that same mistakes again. By the way, part of the reason why we want to involve this select subgroup of people who have also been around at that time back in the day is to exactly like gather also their input and make sure that we learn from everyone's experience of that time.
Amazing. Seems like there's some positive comments in the chat in relation to what you said there, Slim and Sebastian. Um, amazing, amazing. Well, yeah, hopefully that goes well. Would you like to add any more context, Slim, in relation to this conversation, just to spark up more conversation on this?
Just that I'm excited to work with several of the indexes that are already on this call on bringing a new data service to the graph. And I do really believe that it's a transformative new technology, and now working a lot closer with indexes that we can get it right and get it on the network. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for each and every one that is invited so far. And if anyone feels like called to join these as well and feel very excited to join the initial discussions, feel free to reach out to me. But otherwise, yeah, we will, as we progress through the initial phases, there will be the opportunities to join. So, and the first place to I recommend people that are interested to also join the index experience calls. That's also a good place to get started, and make sure your voice is heard as well. So
Amazing, amazing. I'm just reading the comment here from Sebastian in the chat saying uh, we will be working with indexes to design the network and index experience as a group instead of just delivering a finished and ossified product out of stealth. Yeah, that's definitely what people have been asking for. So it's good to hear that things are being put in motion now to make this more of a reality. Um, we have a question here for a topic that would like to be brought up, and it's from Vince. And he's saying, can we also talk about the curation issue slash solution that he brought up? It seems to have received a lot of likes. Uh, and so, yeah, Vince, maybe for those who aren't aware, maybe give a bit of context, and then that can lead us into a conversation about this, and we can hopefully move the conversation forward. So, yeah, feel free to grab the mic if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so I think we have two big problems in the network. One, which Slim Chance is looking to fix with the indexers that aren't doing anything, but we also have the age-old problem of curation. And there is a lot of, I guess I would call it garbage subgraphs on the network. That because there are indexers that are doing nothing, but there's also subgraphs that are doing nothing. And they've kind of become a place for indexers to just shove their stake into and not really provide any value in that way either. Like they might be a well-intentioned indexer, but they need places to shove their stake, so they're just going to shove it on this subgraph that has a decent amount of signal, but has zero queries, does nothing for the end client, does nothing for the indexer besides extract indexing rewards. So I had brought up that I would also like to start as minimal as possible in terms of doing anything to curation, but I would like to see possibly the SAO marking subgraphs with zero queries for an entire month to start getting marked as not eligible for rewards. I think that would clean up a lot of the garbage. Um, and I think you could, make it still possible for the person to be like, "Oh, I wasn't using it for 3 months, but now I want indexers to, have eyes on this again. I'm just going to, sign this transaction, and it's gonna be marked as eligible again manually by, the subgraph publisher." Obviously, you can go further with that and use more of a beat them with a stick on the curators and start nuking curation. So basically marking it as ineligible and then nuking the curation on the subgraph. I think that's a little heavy-handed to start, but I think a good place to start would just be marking subgraphs that have 0 queries for an entire month to get marked as ineligible. And I think the vision that initially curators were supposed to give indexers, they were supposed to be the indexer's eyes, and that obviously hasn't worked out. But I think just a small change like that of being very long-winded with an entire month of 0 queries, and just making our vision a little better, so that way the subgraphs that are eligible for rewards at least have a query in an entire month. And that was kind of what we talked about. It seemed to get a lot of likes. So I definitely like to hear anybody else's feedback on what they think about it, if they, gave it a like, or maybe they're just hearing about it for the first time.
Amazing. Would love to hear people's thoughts on that. And in the meantime, if you could share the place this was posted, feel free to in the chat so people can catch up. Sounds like there's a big thumbs up from Gemma. And then there's a question here from Matthew saying, it needs a JIP for that. Like he basically asking if that's something to put into a JIP.
I think it would be because it'd be the SAO marking stuff as ineligible, so I think that would need one. Those are essentially burned instead of rerouting them to other subgraphs. Burned instead of rerouting them to other subgraphs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that would be a thing, Vincent. Because the pool is still there, the curation. So that's why I also mentioned burning the curation, so marking it as ineligible, so you could actually burn the curation, so it takes it out of that total curation pool. But I think that's a little heavy-handed. That's where I'd like to see it go, because then curators would actually have to do something other than just stake it and leave it. So yeah. Um, I'm Well, it's already being gamed. That's the problem. Um, because I can easily just stake on a subgraph or put some curation on a subgraph, index it, and then I mean we've seen this in the past where an indexer self curates a subgraph, other indexers jump on it, the APR drops down, and then they rug the signal. An indexer has already been slashed for that. But I think the main thing is just it's so like sure if you want to query your subgraph one time to stay eligible, that's fine. That's absolute minimal effort, but at least it's saying someone is alive on the other end, and useful work is being done, at least to a very minimal degree. The UI had better ways to filter our query fees. That would help. But all that curation would still be on the network, wasted away, making it possible to extract rewards from non or pointless subgraphs. It would filter out the vision of the indexer, but I think indexers already do that with, querying the network subgraph and stuff like that to find where the query fees are at. But I think the problem is the curation is sitting on those subgraphs, not being used.
Do you have an idea of what the effect on the network this would have? Like how many subgraphs fall into this category? And how much of the curation on the network? Just curious.
I think Slim Chance I asked him once, but I don't want to put him on the spot with that. But I know it was at least in the hundreds, at least.
I, I
And
believe
just that
it's
minimal thing. Go ahead.
I believe it's 700 out of like 14K, so around 5.7% of the subgraphs. But I currently do not have the numbers on the curation on each of these subgraphs and what it would, how much it is in indexing rewards that are going to these subgraphs. And there's also, I didn't have the time back then to dive into these that have fewer queries, or that might have queries 1 month and then they have no queries and then have queries some months. I haven't had the time to crunch any of those numbers. But yeah, those are the only numbers that I have off the top of my head. So
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think the change is really small. Like Vincent said, you could be like indexing a dead subgraph and then you gotta, query something to keep it alive for the person you don't even know, but you're just trying to keep it alive so you can keep indexing that dead subgraph. That is true. But that would just make it, if someone was doing that, it would just make it like it is right now and just adding an extra burden to that indexer to do, like giving them more to-dos. So it wouldn't change anything. So if they did that, it would be like it is right now. But I think those extra little to-dos, when you rack it up to hundreds of subgraphs, can be something. I'm not looking for just a drastic, massive change. Just something to help a little bit, that if someone games it, it acts exactly as it does right now.
Related to this proposal would be, I think it would be interesting to explore turning off rewards for failed deployments too. That's something that I think we've always left to the network. The idea being that if people are signaling on a deployment and it's actually being queried, even if it's failed, it still has some value to someone. But I think we've learned over time that there is not much value in a failed subgraph with old data, and it's become such a loophole for indexers to keep collecting indexing fees on without doing much work. And it's a lot of curation ends up on these failed subgraphs. I think it could be worth closing that loophole as well.
Yeah, because there is also the loophole too of creating a subgraph that fails 10 blocks in on purpose, and then just
Sure.
using that as an easy index. You just sync 10 blocks and you're up to chain head with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some mention in the chat for anyone that's just listening in about issues with determining whether there was really a failure on a subgraph and disagreements between indexers. So that's kind of a related issue that we're looking into on the graph node side. But I think we could come to a place where we gather consensus on failures. So maybe the PY includes some notion of whether it failed, and then we can see the indexers agree that a subgraph has failed, and then the subgraph availability oracle could then mark it as ineligible for rewards.
Would it also be worth, I've thought of this too, because I think I've seen some drastic differences, but making it available in maybe the network subgraph or something, what node version the indexer is running, because I've noticed that there's been quite a few times where this indexer is running Aragon X and this indexer is running Aragon Y. They don't have any failures. Everything is the same besides the Aragon node, and they're getting determinism issues. And I think it would be a lot easier to debug if you could easily see, oh, I'm on this, and all the indexers that are getting it right are on this version of Aragon.
The challenge
Yeah.
is if you also mix and match, right? Like you can, as an indexer, you can use get for the first 2 million blocks, and then you use 𝗟𝗂𝗂 for the rest, and then you still get a POI divergency if it's from the RPC being a different client, and you have all of these, and then client versions, right? Like you don't know, like at what block did you upgrade to another version? Is it 𝗟𝗂𝗂 3.00? Is it I don't know which 𝗟𝗂𝗂 version did you use at the time that the POI diverged? So I think it's a little bit more complicated than just knowing what the current version is. I guess it could give you some indication though, and that's also one of the things that when we do the chain integration process in InfraDAO, that's something we are trying to expose and try different clients to see if there's any like consistent POI divergency between clients. So we try multiple different client types and different versions where that is relevant. But yeah, sometimes it's not that easy to just know it from that alone. So
Yeah, I don't mean it in terms of like enforcement or anything, just something as a tag so that things can be debugged faster.
yeah, it would be
So like
nice.
I can see like, oh, this indexer synced this million blocks with this client, and then they updated, and then after this block they started using that. Because otherwise I just have to remember I upgraded 𝗟𝗂𝗂 today. And then I don't know what block unless I look and document that.
But you could also have block cache or call cache from different clients at different block heights, right? So you
Yeah,
could
I'm
go
just looking
back
for a
and
tag. Just a
yeah.
tag saying this block, this whatever, getting marked with whatever 𝗟𝗂𝗂 version or whatever
What
version it is.
what I meant is that you, due to being able to clear specific segments of your block or call cache, you could have like it could be a full Frankenstein of different clients that you have used.
Yeah.
Like I've experienced myself at least having to like I've just cleared cache around where I've had an issue, rewind the subgraph, maybe try to connect to another client, and suddenly you have like, well, what block did you really use? Like, yeah, did you? Yeah, it can be tricky, but it could help at least to have some more info.
Yeah. Yeah, because having those tags would let you know what your Frankenstein's made up of, at least, at minimum. And I say this because DRPC just added a feature that I thought was really cool, that you can give and serve different versions of the same client to different clients. So that can definitely be important. So I saw that feature and thought just at least having a tag to see how my Frankenstein was built would be really helpful to see where I need to dissect things.
Yeah.
Forward is dropping some hints in the chat, which is quite funny. Forgive me if I missed this, but is there end of the year is kind of the timeline for when we can hear more about this, or when this will get more widely spoken about or built, right?
The new data service, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, nice. Well, it's going to be pretty exciting to hear more about it. And are you planning on sharing more as we go closer towards the end of the year, or do you want to do one big announcement once everything is in good shape?
I would say nothing's set in stone, but we'll probably have some some drip coming in closer to the end of the year, not just one singular announcement. But it'll be a hybrid of the two, I think. Yeah, as we get closer to the release, we'll start to work closer with you guys and start to talk more publicly about things and work more in open. I think it's important to work in open and benefit from all of the open source knowledge from everyone on the network and all the other core devs and all the other developers that can give us input.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, it's pretty exciting. We are coming to the top of the hour, but I want to make sure that the curation conversation is capped off. Any additional thoughts, Vince? Do you feel like the conversation has moved forward, or are there any other items that you want to cover off? And maybe if if there's a larger conversation, we can carve out time next week and talk about it further. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, only the final thoughts like Vincent had brought up, which is true that, if we had all these ineligible subgraphs with curation sitting on them, total rewards would drop across the network, depending on how much it affected. But if we also added the feature of, if this does happen, the curation on it, so it got marked as ineligible, then the curation gets nuked. Rewards would go up network wide for indexers. It is a little more of a, not sparing the rod, if you will, but it would put some onus on curators where they've had none thus far.
Gotcha. Yeah, that does sound like it would be pretty helpful. It require contract changes, yeah. Oh, Slim, you wanna pop in?
No, I was just saying that that might also be like if I was a curator and I stood to get 100% slashed from my curation, I would 100% set up a bot that and have redundancy on my bot that would ping those subgraphs. So I'm not sure if 100% burn is something that we want to do. It could actually have the opposite effect of being so heavy-handed that you kind of enforce having curators gamify it. So yeah, it would. I think it that the denial of rewards would be
Well, I mean, you
better.
wouldn't even need a bot. You could just go on your DApp or whatever and hit the refresh button if you had one. I mean,
If you're that though,
available.
but if you're an independent curator or if you're a gateway provider, we are looking more and more now at wanting also someone to run a gateway. Like for example, if EduNode or any other provider wants to abstract away the nitty-gritties of having to curate. This is something that even happens with BuilderStar offering dApps to manage their subgraphs for them, and they only get the endpoint. So you have these managed instances and that you're managing for others, and you're managing the curation signal for others. And any of these would want to set up a bot. So I think that is a challenge with like actual burning. What we could do is look into better ways to utilize the GRT that is disabled, for example.
If they did have a bot, let's say they set up a bot, it wouldn't change anything from right now. They just wouldn't, nothing would happen and it would still exist. But as we've seen, I think even with just Arbitrum or Ethereum to Arbitrum delegations, there's a lot of stake just sitting there doing
Yeah.
absolutely nothing, being fully ignored. And I think a lot of that would get wiped. There would be people, I don't know why you would run a bot on something you never use, but if you did, because you could just move your curation to something that has queries. But if you did go completely out of your way to just bot a subgraph, then nothing would change for you anyway.
Yeah. But so that's what I mean, like people that are active and understand these nuances. How should I say? I just fear that we make it too hard for those that are actually wanting to use a subgraph but don't really fully understand, or they might be in the development process. I've been there myself, where I've developed subgraphs that have been sitting around for a couple of months while we are developing new features, and like this would just make it harder because we would, yeah, I don't know.
But I
I
mean,
feel like
if
it's
it's
something
not
that could
being
be
used,
priced in. Yeah,
if it's not being used, then why is it on the network?
yeah. Well, it's also paid for by capital allocation, right? So if you buy a loaf of bread at a bakery, and you just let it sit on your kitchen in your kitchen, it's not like the baker will come to your door and like take your bread and throw it in the trash. Like
No, but it would go stale.
still, it will go stale, and that's where the like disabling the rewards, but maybe a bad analogy, but if you're still paying for it like by capital allocation, and maybe that's something that we could have been better, but I also think that it's a little bit heavy-handed, and I don't want people to get scared away from using the graph because they are afraid of getting 100% slash as well. That's the number one thing that developers asked for early on in the days, is like a simplified process, and that's where you see Edgenode, for example, helping out a lot with curation. So that I just fear that it will be too difficult, and it's something that, I don't know, slashing somebody's capital is a very forceful method, and I think there's a lot of better ways to do it. But yeah, for example, what Vincent says, forceful curation withdrawal could be an option,
Yeah,
or
that's
simply have a way to claim that those like unclaimed indexing rewards and use them in the protocol somehow.
yeah.
Either
Yeah, it's
either
the
yeah
slashing's only mentioned, like Vincent said, the slashing's only mentioned because there's got to be a way, because once you turn off that eligibility reward, you need to take that curation out of the total network pool, so it's not dragging down rewards that people can't utilize.
yeah
So it's like a gap in the rewards. So being able to even just say, "Hey, withdraw your money," that's fine. Or I mean, you can mess with the lengths, make it 90 days, no queries.
yeah.
Three months is a long time to not have a single query. And
But
just that alone, I think, it might not take out 5,000 subgraphs that aren't being used, but it might take out 3 or 400. Um,
yeah, but there could be other ways as well. So I'm very open to discussing that. That's also something that we could discuss on the index experience working group. For example, a garbage collection type of routine that takes that goes through and are able to collect those rewards and feed it back into the protocol, or yeah, so there's some ways, or forceful curation withdrawal. I'm just hesitant to say that we should commit to it unless we have the numbers first. Like, is this 1% of the rewards? Is it 0.1%? And is that where we start? Because protocol or contract changes are very costly in general. So it's a multi-month, very costly process. So it's not something that is like easily changed. But the SEO disabling those rewards is something that could happen at a much better rate. And so that's the question then is it worth the extra squeeze to make sure we utilize those indexing rewards? And that comes down to the numbers, right? Are we talking at 100,000 GRT, or are we talking 100 million GRT? That's something I would love to look into. I wouldn't have time this week, but yeah, it's
yeah, I also think it's less about rewards. Like, I know it's not going to be some like insane amount for indexers. I think it's more about just clearing up the vision for indexers, so indexers aren't allocating to garbage.
yeah
I think that's the more important thing than, an extra $10 in my pocket a month. I think it's much more important that when I go to look at things, it's not even possible for me to do the job of indexing garbage.
yeah
Like it's not an
Yeah,
option.
yeah. In combination with the other proposal 0079, it makes a lot of sense to make
Yeah.
sure that subgraphs that are counted towards those 10 are high quality subgraphs. But we also need to make sure it's not so complicated to participate that people are just not using the graph anymore. So that's
Yeah,
where I'm
because
like, okay, let's get the numbers on the table to see how much of allocation does it attract, and how much of indexing rewards is going to these subgraphs, and maybe
yeah,
we'll
'cause
find some overlap as well over failed subgraphs and these subgraphs.
yeah,
So
because I think it continues to be, while I am in support of 79, it continues to be beating indexers with a stick to make them behave. And I think it should be more about the incentives for them to behave, which is where curation comes in. Because
yeah,
I think you'll catch a lot more flies with honey than vinegar.
oh for sure. And we're looking into what carrots and sticks for encouraging indexes to have high quality or high value ad activities on the network. So yeah, some exciting things coming up as well. We are 10 minutes over, so I think maybe we'll let Abel wrap up, and we can continue this on the index experience working group for an IOH next time. So yeah, thanks for the convo.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you, Slim. Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Phoebe.
Amazing. And thank you all for contributing to that conversation. And yeah, looking forward to continuing the conversation next week at another edition of IOH. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again same time next week. Bye bye.